I'm Simon Hughes, Head of Medical at Christie Co. We're the largest firm of agents and valuers dealing in the dental sector. We have 16 offices in the UK. We have 35 specialists working in the dental industry. And the services that we offer, principals, are brokerage, so buying and selling practices. And for anybody buying a practice, we can also do an RICS, which is a Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors accredited valuation to facilitate a loan application. So we're on the bank's panels for dental valuation. In terms of where demand is in the market, demand for NHS is absolutely frenetic and it's very busy generally, with buyers most interested in NHS or mixed practices. There's been a definite upsurge in the last 12 months for private practices as well, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Generally the return on investment is better, but there is more risk associated with buying a private practice, and also there's more growth in private dentistry. So I think if you're a buyer looking to develop a business further, you would naturally look towards developing private dentistry. Geographically, there's probably three hotspots in the UK. London and the South East is the greatest, where there's a huge density of population. There's over 2,000 practices in London, and it's a bit of a melting pot of a market. The Midlands and the North West, where again population density is at its greatest, are really strong markets as well. And we're also seeing a big improvement in demand for practices north of the border in Scotland, where the NHS system is different, but the returns on investments are quite high. Demand is generally thinner, but we're definitely seeing a surge northwards in terms of activity. In terms of who's buying at the moment, broadly buyers fall into three categories. Corporates. The second category are mini groups, so operators with typically 5 or more practices. And the third category are independents, and those can be principals with a single practice looking to put a second site into to build a mini group, or small groups of 2 and 3 buying opportunistically in the region. Yeah, in terms of financing, banks are very keen to lend to the dental sector. They see it as low risk. There's a very low history of impairment in dentistry as well compared to other business classes, so that's attractive to lenders. And the equity is coming from the dentists themselves, associates who are qualifying and then saving up over 2 or 3 years to put a deposit down. There's also a wall of family money out there as well, because dental practices are seen as a safe investment and provide a very good return on family equity. I think in terms of the possible impact of Brexit on practice prices, it's far too early to predict really what that might be. I guess there's a couple of factors that could influence pricing. The first is recruitment, which is already a challenge in the sector. I think if there was any restriction on free movement that affected the number of qualified dentists that were in the UK, then the delivery of NHS dentistry could be impacted, and therefore pricing could be impacted accordingly. And the second thing is the funding in the NHS itself. If that increases, then that could have a positive impact. Conversely, if it decreases, then that could have a negative impact on the value of NHS contracts, and therefore pricing could be affected as well. But it's far too soon, I think, to be accurate in terms of what, if any, impact Brexit could make. In terms of when is a good time to buy, I mean, pricing is quite strong at the moment, and it's impossible to tell when a market has peaked until it starts coming down the other side. But it certainly feels that the market's in a bit of a bubble at the moment, so if you're selling, then now's a really good time. There's probably 10 buyers for every decent quality mixed practice, particularly in the hotspots of London, the Midlands and the North West. So it's a tremendous time to be thinking of selling a mixed practice or indeed a private practice. From a seasonality point of view, it really makes no difference when you actually launch your business to the market, other than the obvious months of December and August. There are buyers active and looking the whole year round, so there's activity and applicants keen to acquire a practice at any time. In terms of how long a practice takes to sell from the day of instruction to the day of completion, it will vary depending on the type of practice. Anything with an NHS contract will generally be longer because it's necessary to go through the mechanism of transferring the NHS contract from the incumbent provider to the new principal, and that in itself can take 2 to 3 months because it needs NHS approval. So that will extend the overall time to between 6 and 9 months. In terms of a private practice, it really is quite quick, or can be quite quick, because there's no NHS element to facilitate. A private practice can change hands as quickly as 3 months, provided that there are specialists, lawyers and accountants working on both sides of the transaction, and that's really key. We've got a team of 6 dental brokers who are specialists in selling dental practices, and what the team does is work with principals of practices, sometimes 2 or 3 years prior to marketing, to help them position the practice for sale to optimise value once a decision is taken to actually sell. We work very closely with principals, which we think is an absolutely fundamental part of the sale process. Every transaction has its wrinkles, has its challenges, and it's really key that the agent who's working with the principal is closely involved to negotiate our way through those issues when they arise. Selling a dental practice is a very intense process and can be quite challenging. In the private dental sector, there are matters such as deferment and tie-ins that need negotiating. Associates terms as well can be quite a challenging issue as well. So one of the things our team does is take responsibility for negotiating the whole gamut of matters that need addressing on behalf of the principal. In terms of what the definition of goodwill is the value of a business, and it's driven by the income of the business and by the profitability of the business.